Greetings, people of the sky, and welcome. And someone just subscribed. Thank you. What a timing. Welcome to the stream. We have a special stream today. And with I'm talking about you, chat, and we have two special guests. We have Sir Wolin and Mr. Windhunter from the Skylords Reborn team. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
So, chat, let me know if something is too loud, too low. The music, the guys in the voice chat. Just give me some feedback if I have to adjust something here. Let's get right into it. The plan for today is a stream around 1 hour, maybe 1.5 hours. We will have a break in the middle. We will check out the official anniversary card design contest. This is very hype. I just saw the chat today and the people in the Discord. I think you all are ready for some awesome cards. Before we get into it, it's part of the anniversary, so keep your eyes open. There might be something like boosters here in this stream. We'll start off with going over the rules. The rules were quite simple. We had to come up with a new card, so please don't rework an existing card. The card has to fit into an existing model. We cannot add at the moment new models, maybe future, who knows. No fire, frost cards, or rainbow cards. Rainbow like nature, fire, and frost cards. You need 3 colored orbs. Fully upgraded, well, that's just that everything is on the same level. And the permission to the permission to make modifications. So if the card make it to the game, so that the balancing team can adjust that. And last but not least, only 2 entries per player. We have a total of 144 cards. So if we don't had this maximum 2 per player, we might have even more there. We have a lot of creative people in the community. The things you had to prepare for your entry, there was a template. So you had to provide, of course, the name for the card, the tier, and the orbs. The type, if it's a spell, a building, or a unit, the power cost, if the hit points, and the size, if it's a unit, if it's a tower, of course, not a size, same for spells, the attack value and the type, if it's a range or a melee unit, as well if there is a counter, and if it's a spell or is there any ability, so that has to be added too, and, well, your explanation. Why should be this card added to the game? Why is it good? Where's the niche? All these things should be part of your entry. I want to give a shout out to Mace for the SMJ website with the awesome card creator. It make a lot nice cards. You might have seen the overview in the Discord. They are a lot cool cards there. Okay, there are 3 tiers to win stuff. We have the Platinum tier. That are the top cards. They might or might not, who knows, be part of the game in the future. So we will look at them most certainly. There's also the Gold tier, which are, close to Platinum, but missing one aspect. One aspect could be there is no unit model, or it's super niche, or it's impossible to balance something like this. So one aspect which is missing to get the Platinum. And, well, the Silver tier, it's like the Gold, but more than one of these aspects which are missing the target. Okay, the people who looked at all this 144 cards, that was a lot, were Hero, Radical X, and Windhunter here on the stream. So big shout outs to these three who checked the cards and found the best of the best. Especially for Windhunter, who is part of the stream today, please keep in mind he is here to tell us about the cards. He is not here to justify anything like, why is my card not part of the platinum rank? That's not the part here. What we are looking, we want to have fun. We want to see some nice ideas from the community. Another big love to the people behind the event. It's not only looking at cards, but also organizing stuff. So shout out to Capo, Majora, and Metacross, who helped to make this event happening. And with that, I think enough talk. It's time to see some cards. We will start with some honorable mentions from the gold rank. We called them Gold Plus, so it's very, very close. The first card is the Fire Giant. Windhunter, take it away.
Okay, so I think just as a way of explanation, we found while we started to kind of judge the cards that the existing scale was somewhat insufficient to describe what we wanted. And so Platinum still became cards that we thought were like, these are really strong entries. They have a very high chance of being added to the game, largely as is. But then we kind of felt bad because we had so many cards in Silver tier, but a lot of them didn't really deserve Silver tier. They felt like they're a little better. And so we started making it so that if the card was kind of a strong entry or had one core idea that was really good, it was gold. And then honorable mentions became cards that we thought were both strong entries, as in everything kind of went together really well, and on top of that had at least one, often two, really strong core ideas. So Fire Giant is one such card. This is a tier 4 unit. Its abilities are an AoE disenchant, and the way the disenchant works is that it's a passive ability, and every single debuff or buff that's purged as part of the disenchant causes kind of like a damage effect to occur. And then on top of that, it also has the Moloch ability. It has 30% reduced damage. So the reason we like this card so much is that, you know, we've had a lot of people ask us over kind of the course of adding the game to add an AoE disenchant ability. And we first did that with Wasteland Wing. I always call it Wasteland Wing, not Wasteland Terror. And so we first added this with Wasteland Terror for an AoE disenchant ability, but it also really fits in Fire. But we don't just want to add AoE disenchant spell. And so we thought the idea of connecting it to a unit and making it scale via both the AoE effects, but also cause kind of a damage effect when the disenchant happened was really fitting for a tier 4 unit. And so in some sense, though, it's kind of unlikely that we will actually add this card to the game because, you know, tier 4 Fire already has a lot of Excel units, and we also have to kind of fix some of them. You know, there's probably like Thunderwagon needs some little buffs, and Moloch needs a rework. But we really kind of looked at this card as good because honestly, we think it's what Moloch probably should have been, if that makes sense.
That makes totally sense. My mic does work. That makes totally sense, and I see that I completely missed the description of this card. I got it kind of wrong and was a little bit confused about this card when I first read about it. And you took one of my main bullet points that fire, thanks to the Skylar's Reborn team, is in the best state ever. Fire is really awesome to play these days. It's really among the top tier decks, even more in the RPVE mode, which I like so much. And yeah, I completely agree. To fit in another card into fire, I would say, yeah, that's hard to justify. And there's the Moloch with this awesome artwork, which I'm so grateful it will get at any point in the future, probably some attention, because I like that artwork so much. It's the cover of my fire deck. I thought this was to use your own buffs, which are quite essential. The rework from fire gave great sustain tools, but removing this for little damage, I thought, will this fit into fire? But with your explanation, yes, I completely got now where this is in this spot, and indeed an interesting submission. What I wonder, but I have to point out once, I'm here just for some comments from the gut, and fire is really a passion for me. And you know, Windhunter, how much I like strong cards. I'm usually known as a meta player and try to get the best out of my decks. And even I thought, ooh, an auto disenchant that may be a little bit too strong, maybe a little bit too overpowered. Probably if you scale the numbers right. Indeed, very, very interesting. Kudos to the maker here. Yes.
Yeah, when
I would say. Go ahead.
No, do the answer.
Go ahead.
I would say like a few things. So we as judges kind of learned quickly that players aren't going to get the numbers right, and that's not the player's fault. So I've been on the team now for almost 2 full years, and basically every single day for 2 years, I've looked at a spreadsheet of every single one of the cards in the game and their current power values, their attack, their life points, their abilities, and I look at them in the wiki all the time and in game, and I'm always thinking about how to change cards. So not just me, but also Radical X and Hero are the same way. They have more of a PvP focus and I have more of a PvE focus, but we all work together. And so we kind of intuitively know how strong an ability is and how much power cost it should have and how much damage it should have before even, doing the numbers fully. And our players, they don't know that because they don't stare at the numbers of Battleforge all the time. So what we really were judging for were less numbers and more how good the idea was in a total sense. And so I think as written, this card is both overpowered and underpowered. So
Yes, that
Yeah.
cuts it quite perfect. That cuts it quite perfect. The damage underpowered, the ability overpowered. That's what was my first thought. And still Mass Disenchant. I think we have spoken this when I was part of the task force back then. Sometimes, of course, that's a thing we asked sometimes for. Would it be possible to get Mass Disenchant? And I get the idea behind it. I mean, I said I'm a meta player, and yeah, Mass Disenchant, kind of balanced Mass Disenchant would be great, of course.
so an example of like how I'd rebalance this card, it's too expensive. So I'd probably drop it to like 275. And then its damage values would then be like kind of decent and pretty good. And right now, its Mass Disenchant happens every 5 seconds. I'd probably increase it to more like 11 or 14 seconds. So that would be kind of setting up what's going on with it. There actually is an attack value, but I think we missed it. I think it's like a 5,000 or something like that. So yeah, I just say again though, I don't sweat the numbers too much. It's just like the idea of the card is really solid, and that's what we really wanted to reward. So these honorable mentions too will also receive an extra booster as a reward, because we thought these were entries that really were worth more, like were really solid entries that we want to kind of highlight and give rewards to.
Yeah.
And also as the creator is mentioning in the chat about this card, part of its damage is actually through the disenchants, not from its attack value, which also is really interesting. Because it means it's more than just running up and attacking a card. That's part of the reason we also find it really interesting.
I think I agree on both things. Like the numbers, I did also entry, and it was very hard to figure out what numbers should I choose. So yeah, I can understand this totally. And about the disenchant, when I read the card, I was remembering about the fire crystal, which was added to the RPVE fire, who is also a big disenchant, but for the enemy. And yeah, I felt the connection here a bit. Okay, I think we can say Fire Giant, very interesting. Let's jump over to the next one. We have the Winterbeast. Take it away.
Okay, so one of the huge things that we saw in this, which I think is really funny, is the most common units were S units and XL units. People did not seem to like L units, and they really hated M units. So I there might have been like 6 M units in the whole contest, like almost none of them. And people loved S units. Well, this card is it's very simple actually. It's just an S unit, and it's a tier 1 Frost S unit with a Swift ability. But, we think of Frost either having like, normal Swift, like Silverwind Lancers, or it has like building-based Swift, like Lyrish Knight. So if it's near a building, it gets Swift. This card is the opposite. It gains Swift if the enemy unit is nearby. Only if an enemy unit is nearby. And so the stated goal of this card is actually a PvP. It's actually a PvP card. And so what happens is in PvP in Frost, you beat a Frost player by attacking the one area of the map. And then when they summon units, you take your Swift units and you sprint somewhere else. And since Frost only has slow units, they can't keep up. And so this person had this really cool idea of adding this territorial ability so that if an enemy is nearby, it gains Swift. So then they can't run away from your Frost units. But at the same time, the Frost player can't get to monuments quickly. So you still have the same downside as Frost tier 1, that your units are slow on normal, but you have one card that can kind of counter that. And so we think this is probably the most interesting way to fix the Frost Swift problem we have ever seen. It is a very, very good solution to the problem. And chances are we never add this card, but we might add this ability to a card. And that's why we wanted to reward this card so much, because the ability is so good, it could definitely be added to a different card in the future. That's everything.
Yeah, it's exactly as you said. When I play against Frost, I just go to the enemy, he spawns units, and I leave. And I repeat this. And sometimes it works, and sometimes not. But with that card or with that ability, yeah, I had to come up with something else.
Yes, it's a clever idea. I'm not a PvP player, but I think since 3 years I'm looking every PvP tournament that we have, if I can attend, and I've seen this described situation so often, and I thought this was really a clever idea. Because would somebody have said, let's give Frost a tier 1 Swift unit? Yeah, that would not have fit the faction from my feeling, but I'm not good in this. but this was a clever idea to make it conditional. I think, yeah, clever idea. Really liked it. Nothing to add.
Yeah, very nice idea. Let's jump over to the next gold plus. It's the Infernal Blacksmith. Tell us more.
Okay, so this card, the person who made it, so there's a few different abilities. There is a minor kind of damage buff aura, similar to say Forest Elder Green. It just gives like a small damage buff to surrounding units. It then has this ability called Fervor Strikes, which we will just pretend is Rage because it is Rage. And then finally, it has this other ability called Smithing, which it puts up a shop and it heals friendly units around it. Kind of like it becomes, it's almost like it's like smelting and sending fire out. And so this is an XL unit. Again, talking about XL units and S units were the two most common units. Personally, I think the card fits more as an L unit, but it's again, this is kind of one of the things. This is kind of just one of those things that it's like whatever, L unit, XL unit, doesn't matter. But what we like about this card is it's very thematically fitting. You know, a blacksmith in terms of a fire card. I mean, we don't have that, but it's an obvious idea to make for a fire card. It's also like the fact that it can, I mean, the fervor strikes, again, it's just rage, but that also kind of makes sense, I think, on a card like this. And what we really liked, what we really kind of liked about the card is that was the explanation. And so when this person was writing this card, they identified a problem in Fire Tier 3. And the problem in Fire Tier 3 is a lack of sustain. And so they tried to make a card which was thematically appropriate to sustain. And they did that by having it set up a blacksmith shop. And then when it's at the blacksmith shop, it can heal nearby allies. I don't know if I completely agree with just giving an unconditional heal to fire. You know, maybe it could be like a kind of like a minor bloodthirst or like ravage type of thing instead, especially because it already has a kind of in combat attack ability. So then there's a kind of trade-off. Like you either add the unit's attack damage, or you have it be in supportive and being able to heal at the same time, which is also why I think a cheaper L unit is kind of more fitting for what we're talking about here. But, you know, the fact that the card, one, fits really thematically in terms of being a blacksmith. It has a buffing aura, which, you know, we really don't have in Fire Tier 3. And so having a really minor kind of buff aura as if it were basically like sharpening the swords of the fire units, and also filling a needed role in Fire Tier 3, which is sustain. I heard someone say, you know, Unity green, and that's fine if you're using basically magma hurlers, but we're interested in creating kind of, you know, other thematic ways of doing sustain that's not just bringing Unity green, especially if you have to bring Unity blue for higher tiers. And if you added more cards into the game, you know, right now, one reason Fire can put both Unities in its deck is because it doesn't have that many cards. A lot of pure decks have this problem where you actually like put 17 cards into the deck, and the last 3 are kind of like, just like kind of throw whatever in there. And so if we were to add more cards, you would be less likely to have both Unities in your deck. And so having a card which both was practical as an ability and could also be sustained would be a really strong entry. And so that's kind of what we liked about the card. It has kind of like the whole package in terms of like thematics and fills a real needed niche.
Nice.
I hope I may say this once on the stream. This is my most probably disliked entry. Stixius will hate me for that. I think the Blacksmith theme and the artwork which he took, I do not know where he get that from. It could be implemented like that into the game. That's awesome. Yes, but I think it was the most unfitting card in terms of the abilities, because yes, I go with the chat. I think the nature affinity of Unity is a very strong sustain tool, and I'm really a fan of putting both. That you even have all the game. I had some games last week. I'm playing pretty much Pure Fire since it was so well rounded with the last patch. And I usually like to take my both unities alone for the charges. To have your units bound together to 1 HP pool is such a great thing. And what you need for sustain for fire to get along. And I think fire has pretty cool sustain tools which are very much fitting the Ravage. You need to stay in fight. Being in fight is what you want to be as fire player, going as fast as possible, going as aggressive as possible. And even more as it was described, he said he sets up his shop. I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. He sets up his blacksmith shop and for healing. Yeah, but this is not fitting to me for the fire faction. I think fire has pretty good sustain tools fitting for tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 now. So this was my most disliked card, which I think, yeah, they're setting up the blacksmith shop. This got my heart. This was cool, and if ever something similar, if this is the idea that could be taken from this card, I'm in for that. That would be very cool. But else with the affinities, I think we have a strong buffing ability now, even with the sustained together in tier 4. We have multiple tier 3 options, from which the magma hurlers, of course, are super superior. And this combination of the hurlers and the unity is so strong if you're looking for a meta approach. You have this great meme card with the Juggernaut. So this was my most disliked entry, though I'm a fire fan. What I really liked was the blacksmith theme. If we could catch up this someday, of course, this would be great. It was spoken probably about using the Dreadnought model here. When you spoke this about thinking about this an L unit, I was thinking like, yeah, a Dreadnought model L unit setting up his blacksmith shop. That could be awesome if implemented with different abilities. I do not really see the need for this one. So that sadly I have to say, I must say, one card must be my most disliked, and this here it is, sadly.
Yeah, everyone has his own opinion. I
Yes,
agree
I've
with
just-
both
I've
of
just-
you. The
I've just
blacksmith
stupid
idea,
opinion.
the blacksmith idea, fire. It was, yeah. Why did Phenomic miss that? That is so obvious.
Yeah, it's obvious, but I'm just here for stupid opinion, so don't.
Yeah,
don't
no, it's stupid. When I read about the healing, I was also a bit not sure. It sounded like an XL Viridia for me. Like, yeah, she can travel with your units and heal them, and he has to set up a shop. So I would choose Viridia because girls, why not?
I don't want to overextend it here, but what I dislike most is he sets up his shop and you're staying with your
you're
army
having a break.
on a point. So you're having a break, and if I have a break here because in playing my fire, I have it because of energy issues, because of getting my orbs built, and that's the only point where I want to stop with my fire. Yeah, I need to get the next tier, I need to get the next wells. Waiting for some energy, setting my sew up, and that's the thing. And usually I want to play pretty straightforward with my fire, and to make a break for the heal, that's really what I disliked. I think this is not fitting fire too much. But everybody has his opinion.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, I think we jump over to the next card. We have another Frost card. Can you tell us more, Wind Hunter?
So this card, I could say you can just put the bullet points up. I think it'd be easier for people to follow if we actually
Okay.
did that. So this card is a suicide unit, kind of like, say, Shadow Phoenix or Bonsai Bird. And so what it would be, it'd be a tier 1, like kind of small spirit-like thing, which would sprint down and attack, and either when it gets killed, it blows up and freezes, or if it's successfully able to attack, it blows up and freezes. So there's two things we like here. One, part of this contest really kind of revealed to us, the developers, what the players were interested in thinking about and putting together. And one of the common themes we were seeing were spell effects on units. And so the spell effects on units, an example would be, again, Shadow Phoenix or, say, Bonsai Lord. And what I mean by this is it's basically a mobile spell. And so we, as faction designers, myself, Hero, and Radical X, all think that we could be adding more of these spell-like units to the game. And we think they add something interesting, and they kind of have their own unique play style, and they're kind of, there's something different than they'll just, all right, click and go attack type of thing, because there's a lot more kind of thought that goes into using them. And we thought overall that this was the best entry of a spell unit that we got in the contest. So what we also liked the fact that the explanation of this was, right now in Frost, you can put down a glyph of Frost as a trap. But what you can't really do is freeze any enemies which are sitting in a camp. So you can't use Glyph of Frost really kind of aggressively. Like, you can attack and then retreat into it and then attack again. And we don't just want to add Cold Snap in tier 1 because that would be way too strong.
Yeah.
And it also would be, an issue because it would overwrite Cold Snap. And so we thought this was an interesting and also kind of risky way to add like a tier 1 aggressive freeze option. And we liked that idea. And again, if people are like overpowered, not overpowered, I would just mention that, like, numbers here are not definitive, but the idea is just something we quite like.
Yeah, the idea is super great, of course. It reads super cool, and the explanation was indeed, yeah, you could follow that. That was easy. What I thought, I was glad that you put it exactly in this spot where you put it. This is some cool idea behind it, but I would feel it would be a little bit wasted work to put it in like that, because we have the glyph, and the glyph is, I think you can use it aggressively. I've seen that in PvP very often, seen that in PvE, and so I think it's a little bit redundant like it is. But I really, of course, the idea is great, and yeah, but I just think another freeze for Frost in tier 1 probably too much. But the idea is super cool and was super described, and I think there were some thoughts behind that. Really, really cool entry.
Yeah, as I have read the stuff, I was hoping it will not be added to the game, because when I play against Frost, I don't have to micro. I can just stand still and attack stuff, and if that thing is floating around, yeah, I have to split my units. A nice entry here. Let's jump over. We had some fire cards. We had frost cards. I think it's time for a shadow card.
All right, well, I need to pull the card up 1 second, everyone.
It's the last grip, guys.
Oh, so yeah, another tier 1 card. So the way this card works is that it's kind of like Cluster Explosion. So when you cast the spell, it creates an area, and it collects the corpses in the area, and these corpses are used to slow enemy unit speeds down. And yeah, the more corpses that you have, either the lower the movement speed or the more units it can affect. So it just kind of we probably don't think a slow effect actually fits in Shadow Tier 1 in this case. But what we do like is the idea of a Tier 1 support card for Shadow. And so right now, if you look at Shadow Tier 1, the cards that it has for support are all kind of own cards. So like you have Motivate, you can motivate a card, you can use Nasty Surprise, you can use Life Weaving, or you even have Soul Splicer, which can function as a heal or like a buff. But what Shadow Tier 1 doesn't have is a way to affect enemies. But a way to affect enemies with spells is kind of one of the most quintessential Shadow things. And so, like, if people think of Shadow cards that they think a lot, that they know a lot, and they use, you guys think like Frenetic Assault. You think like Infect or Plague. So these kind of cards, which have kind of detrimental effects on the opponents, and we like a few things here. One, we like that it uses corpses that would synergize really well with Souls, like say, Soul Splicer, because you could set up to collect corpses with Soul Splicer and then use this either in a defensive way like that, or you can use it offensively after you're able to kill a few units. And then we also like the fact that, again, it's kind of an enemy-based support spell or like a crowd control. And we really feel like something like that could fit really well in Shadow Tier 1. Maybe not exactly like this, because again, we were not really sure about it being like a cold slowdown, because that kind of feels like that's a frost ability, right? But the general concept we really like.
Yeah, the concept was great, and not only the concept, I liked the explanation about this card. It was I could follow it in every point. Making Embalmers a little bit more shine in Tier 1 to give the support spell, as you said. I like that it worked with corpses in general, so fitting here the team, the theme. So yes, all that I can back all that, and I was just like, I'm more the practical guy. I always tend to, even more with these cards that I've never played, I would need to feel those. I would need to play those, and I was like a little bit skeptical thinking about PvE situations. In RPV 10, Shadow is a player that can be very strong. Top teams often take a Shadow player to support him, to be able to set up an early resource booster and get profit from that Shadow player in Tier 2. But in Tier 1, the Shadow player, he can never give, he can only take. And the thought behind that was really great, that it would be great that Shadow could get probably a tool in future, or where they can even help a mate, where it could do some team play, active team play as Shadow player with your mates, and not only taking the support. I really like that one. Really, this was a super interesting read here. Really like the card.
Yeah, I like the idea of the corpses getting out of the ground and slowing down the units. No idea if that is a good thing on Shadow. With your explanation, Wind Hunter, yeah, it makes sense. It's not directly fitting. It could be more like a Frost thing, but the idea of the hands from the ground, I think that was a cool idea.
By the way, just to mention that shortly, I think, yeah, of course, slowing or even it should even root if it collected enough corpses. That's Frost and nature. And still, I think this manipulation of enemies is still a little bit fitting for Shadow. I would not see the problem here. I would see it more in practical things. Yeah, but that's just my opinion.
Okay. And with that, we are at the end of the first block, the first Gold Plus block. But as you may have been joining a stream of mine, usually I throw in something between blocks. And that is right, it is booster time. It's quiz time. So everyone is getting ready.
So sad that Dutch is not here.
I'm pretty sure I will have a comment under my YouTube video with a big quiz or something like this. Okay, I will post the line and will show you the question you have to answer. The question is, what type of card was submitted the most and how often? So we are looking for how many buildings unit spells. What do you think was the most and how many? I need the number. So not just
like
unit.
Metacross.
Yeah, Metacross have done it correctly. So we have a lot of people today in chat, so maybe people will help me here out. Coming the numbers. Holy shit. Yeah,
that one's pretty close. Oh, that was a really close. I'm not saying which one was close.
That was great.
That was pretty close.
Yeah, we have a lot of numbers here.
I see I see the winner right now. Whenever we stop,
we give them.
You see the exact answer?
No, there's no exact answer yet. Still missing an exact answer.
I say you made your homework. You're really prepared.
Okay, another 10 seconds. That's a moment for me to have a sip, and then it's time to check who gets the booster. Okay, it's 3, 2, 1, and over. It's the end. So let's look at our nice chart. And
it looks like it was just gone at the end.
Yeah, I see the 90 at the end. Yeah, I have to scroll up and see if someone else was faster.
Someone put 89 earlier, but Ragzektar submitted 2 entries. I don't know if that counts.
2 entries is not good. That's not good.
But he also said 89 last time, so maybe the 2 89s can get the win here.
Yeah, split it up, please. Give both a booster.
So Ragzektar also had 89. Who else had 89?
I'm scrolling.
Isan 4095 had. Oh no, he was 79. Oh, it's my bad.
Yeah, Mr. Klumpy had 89.
Mr. Crumpley, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Crumpley has 89.
I think he was the first one, so only
we had
go
no
for the first one and then.
Now give both one, please.
Yeah, good. Okay, both. I need your in-game name. We will figure something out with Metacross to get both boosters there.
Yeah, do not care if he does not. We will find a solution.
I'm sure. So I need your in-game name. I'm Mr. Crumply in-game. Let me copy that away. And the second one.
Rez Zakar. Rez Tat or oh my gosh, I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah. You just have to post your in-game name so I can make the note. While
Mr.
you...
Crumply in game 2.
Yeah, your Crumply I already have, and here's a second one. Awesome. Okie dokie. Well, be aware it's only the quiz #1, so maybe there might be some additional boosters. Keep your eyes open. But before we have more boosters, we will have more cards. And before we go into the Platinum rank, we have something else prepared. We have more honorable mentions, but not gold tier, not silver tier. We have the meme tier. So, Mr. Windhunter, can you tell us what the Eagles are coming is?
Okay, so we because it was mentioned by Capo in the opening thread that people could submit memes like Easter egg. So as we were kind of reading the entries, some of them were very clearly joke entries. And so one of the hardest things for us actually was determining if an entry was a meme or not. So we had another entry that actually might have beaten this one, but we couldn't figure out if it was a real entry or a meme entry. And we decided it was a real entry, even though we thought it was one of the funniest entries there were. But this entry, in my opinion, when I saw this card, I started laughing just like 2 or 3 minutes. Like I just couldn't stop laughing. I mean, Rogan just screams all the time, the people of Lyre are dying. And so now the people of Lyre are flying. I love the image. I love the defender on the War Eagle. The description is just really silly for the card. It says that any S unit in the game, if this is cast on it, it immediately rides a War Eagle to like keep it safe. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just really funny. I love the picture. If we could make this a real card, I would do it as a joke. I think it's just so kind of clever and funny. And and someone pointed out, more Eagle thugs. Yes, like actually, the way this card is worded, any S unit could be mounted on a War Eagle. So you could have thugs on a War Eagle. You could have Wrathblades on a War Eagle. You could have Defenders or Twilights, or for Bitney Inhibitor out there, you could have Rifle Cultists on a War Eagle.
That's a good idea.
What shall I say besides that you took my joke? The people of Lyre are flying.
Yeah.
This is so great. You have this this Lord of the Rings yeah, how do I put it? This reference. You have this the people of Lyre dying reference. The artwork is awesome. I'm biased. He's a friend, so what shall I say? It's so great, and if it made you laugh, so I think everything was achieved. It was great, and it was good, and it made me laugh too. Of course, I laughed a lot about it. It was funny, and it's great. Great
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah, same here. I was reading it, and yeah, I think that's a cool card. Probably will not join the roster. It will not join the collection, but the idea is funny enough, and
Yes.
and the line. I'm pretty sure I will find some time this week to make this voice line out of the game.
I mean,
super
I'm playing.
awesome.
I mean, I'm playing with this guy since 2 years. I met him in real life, and I had to laugh so hard when I was reading the description. And yeah, retreating circle is shit. This card isn't, and it was so great. It was so much him. He was so much himself, and it was so good still. So it's just good. It enjoyed me really, really good.
Okay, we have another entry here, and you might spot who might have sent in this card. I give you like a hint, like the name of the card, the artwork of the card. Windhunter, tell us more.
Okay, so this we only rewarded 2 memes, but we thought that these were the 2 best memes set in. The artwork, some of you might have seen, it was actually made in the Discord server with like an AI, kind of funny. And so the way this card works is it's a giant watermelon that can do nothing. So it can't even attack. But what it can do is summon little watermelons that can roll at you and explode. So honestly, the core concept of the card is actually really good. Like the idea of having a non-attacking spawner unit, which spawns kind of, things. It's a little bit too much like Banzai Lord, as it is, but I think it's just a very fitting and pretty funny meme card, especially as it's based on our well-known WaterMelonLord mod.
I have only to say one thing about this. Cool.
Yeah.
Yes, he brought us 2 great memes, so whatever. It's just cool.
Yeah, I agree. The idea of the watermelon and then using the Easter egg as a model to roll against the enemies and explode. Send out the minions. Yeah. Nice entry. Nice entry.
But by the way, mate, you could have done better. If it would have spawned maulers, it would have been even more cool.
Yeah, or watermelons with a mauler on top riding them, or something like that. Okay, we are at the half point of the stream. We will have a short break here. Get your body a good stretch, get something to drink, visit the toilet, and we will be back in around 5 minutes. Then we have the second quiz, and then it's platinum time. Be ready? See you soon. Okay, people of the sky, are you ready for the second half of the stream? Let's jump over. Break is over. We are doing the second quiz. So, are you ready? Is everyone back? And about the question of the 100 booster openings, well, I'm missing a bit like 99 or something like this. So maybe we wait for Volan's 100 booster.
Mate, he asked for 1,000 booster opening.
Yeah,
And-
1,000 is not possible.
And I can tell you that's not possible because I'm just sitting at almost 200, around 200, and when I buy a booster, it's like a 7, 8, 10-second lag, and I do not think you could have 1,000 boosters and open them live on stream. It would be more than a day because you would have to restart like every 5 boosters or so. You can't grab that much boosters. I can tell you, I've tested for you.
Okay, so no booster, but booster for you. We are at quiz number 2. I hope everyone is back, and I hope you are ready to type stuff in the chat. We're doing the same way as before. I will tell you the question, make a line, and you have the chance to win a booster if you answer the question correctly or if you are near. So remember, I also need the number. The question is, which tier was chosen the most and how often? Well, Binny, that would be hard, and it's don't know which tier you mean. Maybe tier 4, 2000? So get in your numbers. And I need the tier, not the color. Not the rarity, I need the tier. So tier 1, 2, 3, or 4. There is no tier 5. We see a lot of numbers. Winter Hunter already told us about the S and XL thing. I think that would be also funny to have the question here, but quite a pain to collect the data.
Capo, please ban yourself. We may
Yeah,
have
Capo,
we may
out.
have some kids here.
Okay, it looks like we're done with answers.
Yeah, I think so too. I will get
Let's-
our line here.
This
And,
time I'm
What do we
prepared.
think? Who
and
wins?
we see the tier 1 with 16, tier 2 with 44, tier 3 with 43, and tier 4 with 37. So we're looking for tier 2 with near 44. Let me scroll up.
That's Vivale with tier 2 49, I guess. He was the first
Yeah.
one picking a tier 2. We have only 2 tier 2, and he was closer, so I think it must be Vivale.
Yeah,
Well.
Binny was 50 and Vivale was 49. So
Awesome. It's awesome to have you both. You are so fast in the chat. Could you send me your in-game name in chat so I can note that down?
We have an easier job as you. We can prepare for that.
So while we wait for the username in the Discord, in the Twitch chat, I hope you all are ready for what's happening next. It is time. It is time for the platinum ranks. So, oh yeah, that is the name. And okay, so now we are coming to the best of the best, the top of the top. Wind Hunter, tell us more about the Hellhound.
So this is one of the rare L-sized entries, and this was designed by Metagross. He made I think he pandered to me, personally speaking, because 8 or 9 months ago, I jokingly, 8 or 9 months ago, I jokingly said I wanted a Hellhound card, and it was made, but I'm obviously just joking. But anyway, this was, in the opinion of the judges, the best card submitted in the entire contest.
If I may step in, yes.
We both have no idea, but continue.
So this card was easily, in my opinion, the best submission in the contest. Metagross also gave us mathematical tables to show that to show the damage and attack and power values of his card, which means Metagross was also probably one of the only submissions that got the numbers like pretty close to exactly correct, which is pretty impressive overall. And so this is a card that's kind of so good in our opinion that it could almost be added directly to the game. You'd have to see a little changes, some play testing, but almost as is, the card could be added to the game. So what does it do? Well, the card has magma armor, which is just like Moloch's armor. But the way that the armor works is that the armor builds up over time as the card takes damage. So I'm not sure if we can actually code it so that it functions as it takes hits, but we could code it as it's in combat, for example. And then after a certain period of time that it's in combat, when it's out of combat, the armor dissolves. So it starts combat with no armor, and then as it gets attacked, it gains more and more damage resistance over time. And then once the magma armor has been built up to full, you have a choice as a player. You can either keep using the magma armor, which is, protecting your unit, or you can use the active ability called Outburst, and the armor can explode. And if it explodes around it, it deals damage in an area. And so one reason this is so interesting is that this card is a ground unit, so it can't damage air units. But by having this armor explosion, it actually allows a normal L unit, which usually is not that strong in PvE, because you need kind of, if we think about it, fire is really, you basically sometimes use Spitfire and you almost always use Magma Hurler. And so this card gives a pure fire alternative to Magma Hurler that has interesting mechanics that fit the faction and can deal with air units. And we just thought this was superbly well designed. It fits a real kind of hole in the fire faction by giving pure fire a card. Does it build up over time or with damage? The card as written builds up as it's hit. So as the card is hit, it gains armor. So by taking damage, it gains armor. And then they can then explode outwards. So it also has an interesting kind of thought process to it. So it can deal damage by taking damage in a sense, but it doesn't have that much health.
Oh.
So there's definitely trade-offs, and there's definitely interesting kind of back and forth mechanics to be done with it.
Yeah, sorry, chat.
Yes. Spoiler.
Back to that card.
You have to add anything, because I want to say a lot too about this card. It was also to me the most impressive entry, probably because it was described so well, came with all the tables and numbers, but not only that.
Yeah.
I'm basically one thing to mention is too, like, it's actually decently well balanced for PvP and PvE. Yeah. So, and then which is impressive. Oftentimes, people usually think of just one of the two, either PvP or PvE, and Metagross did both to them.
Yes, and he found a sweet spot that seems fittingly, as it seems to be approved by Radical and Hero. They seem to agree. So first of all, it's a cat, and many people that know me know how much I love cats. It has explosions. Oh damn, I love explosions. It's a cat and explosions. Hellhound when? So was great. It came with a great explanation. I totally agree that in PvE the Magma Hurler is so superior that if you're going for a hard job, you will probably take the Magma Hurler. You have some nice meme options. I know Blush doing really great job with the Giant Slayers. I rarely but sometimes play the Juggernaut because the Juggernaut he's a Juggernaut. He's cool. But yeah, this could be a really nice alternative or add-on for in CPV. I think you can play 2 tier 3 units, and it could be a nice add-on to the Magma Hurlers. It's really fitting into the faction. It looks awesome. To having an L unit Forest Elder model would be cool. The explanation about PvP, if I may go into that, was really I could follow that one, because the Juggernaut is at the moment the only reason to go Fire Tier 3. I've seen a lot of Toggy streams, and yeah, I think Fire is the faction which I can understand most in PvP because of his streams. And there's this one simple reason to go Fire Tier 3 to get your Juggernaut out, but your Juggernaut is just a base rusher. You want to go for the bases, and we have seen I've seen those matches where Juggernaut could turn a game, and you have not much options for unit trading. You have some, but not much, and this could be really interesting for both modes. All the tables that come with it, the explanation, it was so great. He really sat down for hours probably to build up this card. It was amazing to read, and I was just like, oh, I want to test this now. So yes, impressed me the most. Kudos meta. That was really awesome work that you put behind that. I would like to play that, to test that right now.
Yeah, I see it more from the PvP perspective, and I think that is an L unit. It's not too hard to counter it if you want. If it's also an XL unit, there are not so many tools, and as an L, the enemy could do, and so it's quite fitting. And also with the ability to deal damage as the last result, maybe to save the cat, and if it survive, awesome. So yeah, like the
Yeah,
other two
just a
cells.
suicide. It's fire. I mean, you could just use it in several ways. You have this. You have to think about, when do you use it? Will I use it at all, or probably will I go for the sustain? So it brings some. I think Windhunter already put this. It brings some player choice, an interesting player choice. It's an interactive card, so really great.
Yeah, awesome entry. And we're jumping over to the next one, and I butchered that. Sorry, I misclicked as I saved the name of element G. But here we have the Amii Energy Core. So Windhunter, tell us more.
this is kind of an interesting concept, and that's why we liked it so much. The way the card works is that it has no attack. It has no attack whatsoever. Instead, it's kind of like Magma Spore. So it does a AoE damage around itself when you activate its ability. So what we kind of see here is this, and so then that seems like, oh, that's kind of boring. It's just doing that. Well, it has another mechanic to it, which is that it damages itself as it does damage, and kind of the lower health it has, the more damage it does. And so we think this kind of, health management mechanic that it has going on with it is kind of a really cool concept for an Amii card. And not just that, but the card itself understands something about Shadow and about nature. So if you look at Shadow and nature as a faction, these are not factions which deal damage to buildings with spells. And so, for example, if you're in fire, you can use something like Fire Sphere, Cluster Explosion, Earth Shaker to attack buildings. That's great. If you're in frost, you can use something like Ice Tornado or Frost Shard plus Shatter Ice, and you can take out a building with that. Though frost and fire are the two factions which kind of have anti-building spells. Well, the same really isn't as much true for Shadow and for Nature. For Nature, they have 0 spells in the game which can affect buildings. There's not a single spell in Nature that can affect buildings. And in Shadow, really the only exceptions that can affect buildings in terms of PvE cards are Soul Shatter, which does reduced damage to buildings, and Frenetic Assault, Fire Affinity, which can target a building. So besides that, Shadow doesn't have any cards which are spells which can affect buildings. And even if you look at Tier 2, there's Cluster Explosion, but what you see in Tier 2 is Shadow Phoenix. And Shadow Phoenix, is kind of a great building destroyer, but it's in the form of a unit. And so we think that this is a really great kind of mixture of nature and shadow put together. And it really understands that these factions deal damage via units, and particularly via unit abilities. So now, again, if we were to change a few things, every one of the judges voted this card platinum. So this was a very strong entry in our opinion, but every one of the judges also does not think this should be an XL card. In terms of, so we always had this funny kind of dichotomy when we're making judgments. So this card, if we were to take it as written, is an honorable mention, I would say. But if we were to take it as written with 1 or 2 tweaks, it's now a really strong platinum entry. And so we kind of thought that when we're looking at cards, it's okay if we as the judges kind of assume the best from the entries, if that makes sense. And so because of that, we gave probably 85% of all entries at least silver, because we wanted to give people boosters. We wanted to give people a reward for their efforts. And as someone pointed out just in chat, this is a very micro-intensive card. Well, that's very fitting for Amii. We also released Transcendence just recently, which is the image I'm using for my speaking right now, one of my favorite cards. And we are currently working on some Amii cards. And not only are we currently working on some Amii cards, but this card as an L unit would fit really well with the kind of the vision for the faction we're working on. And it would fit right into it. And so we really love the health mechanic. We really love the micro intensity of the unit. We really like kind of the aesthetics of an L-sized, Crystal Fiend. We think that would look phenomenal in terms of Amii. We also kind of just like, the artwork, I think, points it out really well. and we really like that it deals damage via an ability, so it understands the faction in a really deep, meaningful way, and would be interesting to play with.
Well, yeah, I agree with you in everything. I read through the thing and was thinking, a big army unit. I'm not sure. The crystal. I was thinking, how would this look? A big crystal in XL. I'm not sure. This is a platinum, and now then you explain you would make it a smaller sized unit. Then yeah, then that would fit more, and the health management, like you said, the people in chat, micromanagement. I see that as an army. Yeah, the combination of the blink and the slow is also a nice thing. I think. Yeah, Bolin, any thoughts?
Oh, I didn't even mention the blink.
This is one of the cards where I get humbled because this is where I saw again why I'm not good at this. When reading the concept, I was like, why is this platinum? What's this? And I was taking it like it was written. It's not a straightforward card. Could not imagine some of its aspects really. I was struggling with the description, and as we prepared the stream, I put down some of my confusion, and Windhunter gave his first thoughts, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's why you're doing this job, and I always refused to take part in that because yeah, I'm more the practical guy and couldn't think as deep into it. And while you wrote me your first thoughts, I was like, yeah, it makes sense, okay, could be interesting. Yeah, could something I would want to see in action still, but can start to imagine about it as you were talking now about it. Even more I get the concept and everything. I can back everything what you said, and yes, interesting, very interesting card. Many thoughts put into it. Of course, very fitting to the faction. But I would have lacked the foresight in this case. What can you do with this? So if this comes or something like this comes to the game, yes, I would be very curious what we can do with it. Would like to see more Rama, and yeah, it's really interesting concept.
Yeah, and of course, an army tier 4 is something completely new. There's no reason to go out nature, shadow for tier 4. There's not a big reason, let's say that. Okay, I think we can jump over to the next card, which is also an army card, which I really like. Tell us more. So, Winter, you are still muted.
I'm not really sure I'm too qualified to talk about this card, to be honest, and that's because it's a PvP card. And, you know, while I used to be a PvP player originally, I probably haven't played PvP in like 10 years in any real sense. So in case anyone's wondering, all of the entries were anonymous, so we did not know that Capo made this. But how this card works is like this. You cast the card on your own power well. And when you cast the card on your own power well, you permanently lose power from the well. So if the well had 600 power left, you now lose maybe 50 power, maybe 100 power, depending on how it be balanced. As written, it's 50, but it would probably have to be higher. And when you do this, you basically permanently lose some of your well capacity, but in exchange, you have this giant burst of damage. And what we liked about this card is that it's an Amii card which focuses on interaction with wells. So one of the interesting parts that we have here is that, you know, we have these Amii cards being released, but we have all these other kind of Amii things from the lore. So like power wells, monuments, walls. These are all Amii things, and so this card interacts with the power well, which is something that we really, really like. So it does damage. It has some level of knockback on it, and it has a solid downside in terms of losing well capacity in the way. And not only that, but if you're thinking about the way Shadow Nature works as a PvP faction, a Shadow Nature is a very micro-intensive PvP faction, and it's really strong in the early game, but it's not very strong by the end of tier 2. So the beginning of tier 2 for Shadow Nature is very strong, and you kind of want to finish the game very quickly through like split attacks with things like Nightcrawlers, or interesting uses of Amii Phantom and Amii Paladins. But once you get later inside of the tier, you start falling off. And so this kind of card would give scaling to Shadow Nature's PvP, but at the same time come with a long-term downside. And so we just think in terms of thought processes and card design that this is a really well built card overall.
Yeah, I have the same lack of experience in PvP. But I hang around with Hero and Radical, and I think, yeah, we all know how dedicated these guys are. So I have just to trust them. My first thought was exactly army spell on an army building. There was such a great idea with this interaction. It felt a little bit underwhelming from the read, because losing permanent energy from your well for a stationary just you can only defend with this card your wells. It sounded a little bit underwhelming to me, but if the PvP guy says this is a thing that could be useful, I'm pretty sure it must be useful because it's here in this spot. What this card, I think it was this or the last slide where I had the thought over and over again. Where did you guys all come up with those awesome artworks? Even if they were stolen from the internet, we had so many great designs that you gave us. Yeah, it makes it cool. It's just cool to look. The concept was really great. I was thinking, yeah, okay, doesn't read that strong. But yeah, I know these guys. I do not question what Hero and Radical say about PvP, and if they say this could be an option, it can be an option for sure. Yeah, cool card, really cool card, cool idea, and
Yeah,
exciting if something
I
like that comes.
I agree with both of you. The army combination with the well, it's a total nice fit there. And yeah, having that, let's say, a nice defense, so we don't have a lot of units. The enemy is coming in with some small units. You use the spell for 50 energy. Yeah, of course, to burn your energy from your well, however it's balanced, but you kill a lot of the enemies, spawn 2 more of your units, and the attack is defended, and you can go directly in and attack the enemy on his power well or something like this. So I think that's a nice tool for army if it's something like this or change with some numbers.
Yeah, and it's a complete new tool. It's a complete new thing to drag energy permanently directly out of your well. To change this for tempo. Yeah, as said, excited if something like this comes. Would be great, and totally trust these guys. If they say this could be a thing, this can be a thing.
Okay, so we will jump over to the next card. We are going back to tier 4, but we are looking at Lost Souls. So Wind Hunter, can you tell us more about this super weapon of Lost Souls?
So yeah, this was a pretty amazing card in our opinion. Funnily enough, in terms of jury, one of us had rated this as gold, another person had rated this as kind of honorable mention because we didn't actually think the card was possible. Yeah, we didn't think the card was possible. But then Hero, who is also a balance developer for us, mentioned to us that this card was in fact possible. And so we kind of all collectively agreed, okay, this is definitely a platinum entry then. But it's going to be a lot of work to implement it, like a lot of work. So there's two things kind of going on here. So this card, the passive Ethereal Anchor, increases the duration of Revenants by 25%. And so right now in the game, all Revenants last 25 seconds. This would make them last an additional 7.5 seconds for 32.5 seconds in total, which is actually a pretty substantial time period. Additionally, the active effect called Soul Extraction would, as written, be an AoE, which you cast on units. And if the units, someone's asking if it's global, it's written as 200 meters, but it'd probably be like 200 meters or 300 meters or global, depending on, how we would kind of balance it. A card like this would need solid play testing before it could be removed, before it could be used. So what happens with the Soul Extraction is you can cast on an area as an AoE area, and if the unit has Revenant's Doom activated, so only on those Lost Souls units with Revenant's Doom currently activated on them, the Revenant form is extracted from them, and their Revenant's Doom is turned off. So the idea would be is you could use this as a temporary way to get a Revenant out of a unit, but in exchange, they would not have their Revenant in the future. And the global ability for Ethereal Anchor would increase the length of those Revenants. And we really like this for multiple reasons. One, we, the three faction designers, are currently on a major rework of Lost Souls. And one of the major things that we're doing in terms of our Lost Souls rework, and we've got some testing in recently, and we had we're kind of really liking the way the faction is moving. We are really pushing the idea of Revenants for Lost Souls. We really want to make using Revenants and maintaining Revenants to be a major part of the faction. And so we're buffing Revenant's Blessing, the tier 2 card. We're probably going to change Lost Banestone from the meme card that it is right now to have a local effect, which any Revenant in the area lasts permanently. So kind of like the way Hammerfall's Ice Shields work. So they're permanent around Hammerfall. So the same thing with Lost Banestone. And then, so that'd be a cool local effect. Well, this would be a cool global effect in terms of extending Revenant durations. And so you'd be able to use this, you'd be able to use Revenant's Blessing, and you'd be able to use some of the other kind of Revenant mechanics that we're going to be adding to the game in terms of, for example, Lost Warlord being able to create a Revenant of itself, or Lost Spirit Ship is going to be able to suck up Revenants to use for its crystal, to use as its heal or its damage ability. And so this would be kind of a perfect accompaniment and a perfect style of, a tier 4 support building for Lost Souls that kind of enters into that Revenant-based play style that we have planned for the faction.
Yeah, Lost Souls Fortress. The really strong effect, pushing that Revenant's playstyle. That looks so cool, but currently you have this situation, you mentioned this, but I will pick this up as you haven't said it here. And it was so true. It's a meme. Currently, the Revenant is a meme. It looks so awesome, but you usually do not want to have Revenants out. You do not want to have your units dying. Yes, sometimes in a case you can sacrifice a unit for strong effect, but as it is really underwhelming. It's a meme deck. I have a Lost Souls deck for RPVE, which I play occasionally. Yeah, I'm playing it. I was playing it with Revenants for some time, as you can use them for now with this spawned Revenant. And yeah, and if you occur a harder map, you just fail with your meme deck because it's just for the memes. And the concept is really cool. I would like to see this global. It would be really cool for the first stage, for the first testing, to make this global. It's a fortress. It could be one of the key cards building up a double frost, double shadow deck. This could be micro intensive. That would be fitting for these in-between factions, this double color factions. I would say, from my point of view, even more as shadow is in there. You have to micro probably a lot, but if you could double your army for a time, that would be really strong. But I do not think that would be a problem for PvE. If you do it correctly, probably doing it one by one, not all the army at a time. I would really like that. The chat seems very hyped about the Revenants, and so I am. Really looking forward to what you guys are coming up with the Lost Souls faction, because it sounds so promising what you tell. And yeah, that would be really cool to see if finally this faction has a cool faction trait, because the current one looks cool, but cool looking. Yeah, you can't buy anything from that on a hot map. And if we could make this useful, oh, I would love to see that.
Yeah, I also agree on the getting the damage. You see you're running on RPVE and you're going for the last camp, and you just activate this, get the maximum burst damage out to be fast, or do it one by one. You go in, see a big boss. Okay, I need some more support. I only run here with 3 units. Boom, 6 units. I think stuff like this could help there too. Okay, well, guys, that is the end of the Platinum ranks. So these are all cards we prepared to show today. Before we wrap things up, we will have our last quiz. So it's your last chance to get a booster code. Or, well, not a booster code, a booster sponsored by the Skylords Reborn team. So get ready, I may prepare the line. And the question is, which faction was chosen the most and how often? So we're looking for something like Lost Souls 50 times or Shadow 100 times. Yeah, we're seeing some fire. I'm also a big fire fan. Yeah, the stuff is coming in. Nice, nice, nice. A lot of numbers. So you guys have to help me again to find the correct one.
Yeah, I have my eye on one answer. Pretty close. Could be closer.
You hear the man. Get your numbers in. We will close in like 10 seconds. So, let me have the last sip. 3, 2,
I see.
1, and it's over. It's over. So
We have a correct answer.
we have a correct answer. Okay, that is awesome because let's look at the chart.
Magic
We
Hoof
have-
got it.
Yes, Magikov got it.
Yeah,
Oof.
you see, we have a lot of Amii, and I was kind of expecting that. To be honest, a card contest, you can think of everything you want, and this is this new faction kind of thing, and there are not a lot of Amii cards, so I would go for Amii, of course. So, yeah, I was expecting this kind of it. So,
Yes, obvious and good choice. It's good that the community, I think, put in some input for the Amii faction that yeah, it's just great.
so
As Frost Fire was not allowed, so Amii would be the obvious pick.
So let me scroll. You said there was a direct hit.
Magic Hoof got it.
Okay, yeah. Just post your in-game name. I can make the note. And like I said, we are done with the platinum, so we are also at the end of the stream. I want to give a shout out to everyone who joined in this event. You already saw that slide in the Discord or maybe also the forum. So there were a lot of cards. I was not involved in this process, but I got the pictures and I was thinking, well, that's so cool. I probably will read the text about this card as soon as it will be released.
Cool.
And the release will be in the forum while we are speaking here. Kappa has already prepared this, so if you are going into the forum, you can check out the cards there and the detailed description from the people who designed them. And with that said, we are at the end of the stream. So, Volin, Windhunter, thank you for joining here. And is there something you want to add?
I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for sending in your entries. Even if your entries didn't win, we really enjoyed seeing what people were interested in. We were really interested in seeing, what the community was excited about. For example, probably one of the most common entries that we got were tier 3 and tier 4 archers. And so it really kind of tells us that, these are the type of cards that the community wants to see more of. Things like that. So it really gave us also there were so many good ideas. And I just want to give people encouragement in terms of there were so many silver cards which could have been gold or honorable mentions if it had just been a little bit more work. And so there were so many entries which, were so close to being superb entries. And, just a little bit more work, a little bit more thought in it. And there were so many gold tier entries which easily could have been honorable mentions or even platinums, which just, again, a little bit kind of more work put into it. And so I just want to thank everyone for how much effort they put in and for kind of giving us more ideas. We as faction designers, we try to think a lot about the game, but there's definitely a benefit for kind of people who aren't in it all the time, giving us a different perspective, and also just so we can kind of see what is the community excited about, what does the community want, and it helps us, do a better job ourselves going forward in implementing cards that people will be, excited about.
Hey, I can just say from a very different perspective, thank you very much for having me. I'm not a creative guy and I did not create a card. When this contest came up, I could, as an uncreative person, I could have not imagined the hype and how much people would give in so much cards. And when this thing was starting and you could see in the forums all the ideas, and so many people were adding different ideas, and I often said, or sometimes said in the past, to people with very high expectations and a harsh tone, that they probably should not think about what Scarlet's Reborn could do for them, but would they can do for Scarlet's Reborn. It's a community project, and this contest really showed how awesome this community is. And yeah, this community project means we all, and it was just amazing to see the hype today in the event stream, and I was enjoying this so much. And yeah, I can just finish with thanks for having me to share my humble opinions on that. It was a great fun as always.
Okay, well, yeah, I can only say the same things like it was awesome to see all the cards. It was awesome to hear the explanation of someone who voted on the cards, like a Wind Hunter, and to get more insight of the thought process. Why did this card get the platinum rank? And yeah, that makes sense. And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to Metacross and the Skylords Reborn team, because upcoming Saturday is first the stream of Metacross for the official Bad Harvest event, which will hold, and it is patch day. At least planned, we will see, but so get ready. There will be new cards, there will be a stream. I hope you keep up the hype. So we see now the card contest hype going down and the patch hype is going up. And with that, the stream will end here. I hope you all had a lot of fun and see you all in the Forge. Till then.
Bye, everyone.